I can also ask a couple of questions. So where everyone is kind of from and what you're planning on doing. Are you currently in dental school? Are you looking towards residency or the PASS program, or just applying to dental school in general? If you can just message in the chat, just so I have a bit of an idea what everyone is applying to or looking to get out of this session today. Sorry, I realized I was muted. So I'll get started, and then at the end, I'll take any questions, and then we can go from there. So today I'm just going to be talking about my journey from a dental school in Poland to currently where I am today, which is oral medicine residency at the University of Pennsylvania. So some important pre-seminar information. The seminar is recorded. I will be presenting helpful information, but at the end, I will be advertising some packages just at the very end. And if you want to reach out to me, you can reach out to me on Accepted Together, Natalia Trahan, about any follow-up questions. Okay, so today's outline will just be a little bit about me. Then I will go into pathways post-graduation, as well as the application process, and then finally, question and answers. So a little bit about me. I was born in India, raised in Canada, and I went to dental school in 2017 in Poland. I graduated dental school, a 5-year dental degree, in 2022, June. And shortly after, in July 2022, I started my residency program at the University of Pennsylvania at the hospital there. It's an oral medicine residency program, a 2-year program that I'm currently in. I'm just finishing up my first year. So I am an incoming chief resident, so I will be chief resident for the incoming 2023-2024 year. I'm also interested in pursuing a clinical and academic career in oral diagnosis. Head and neck oncology really interests me, and then pursuing surgery further on as well. And my hobbies include reading, swimming, and going to the beach. Okay, so a little bit of background about the pathways that are present. So first, we do have the IDEA CAPID pathway and also the IDEA PASS. And I know someone mentioned that they were applying to dental school. And I do want to clarify that this is specifically for the PASS pathway. However, I am familiar with the regular dental school pathway as well. So the way CAPID itself works is where you get a US dental license. There are approximately 40 schools, and you need to check the individual state requirements. For international students, you're not always eligible for all of them. Some of them also do prioritize US citizens and green card holders. And the prerequisites for CAPID programs are the INBDE and TOEFL. So this is how the IDEA CAPID portal does look like. Currently, it ran from March 9th, 2023, and it's going till Feb 16, 2024. These are some examples of some of the institutions that are there as well. So University of Alabama at Birmingham, School of Dentistry, and the anticipated class size is 24. Applications opened up in March, and they end in May. The earlier you get your application in is always a pro. It is on a rolling basis in terms of applications and providing interviews. So the pros of doing IDEA CAPID is to get a US dental license and the ability to practice in all 50 states in the US. You also get the opportunity to apply to any residency programs after that and get familiar with the US dental school and system. The cons as an international dental grad are that you are repeating the last 3 years of dental school again. It is also approximately $200,000 to $500,000 in cost. And most applicants after finishing this tend to not want to specialize just because they've spent so many years in dental school. And most of them tend to go to private practice straight away and do general dentistry. You still do have to follow the specific state requirements in terms of licensing as well. And as I said, you would require English proficiency tests as well. So TOEFL IBT, which is the internet-based test, is required, and at least 2 letters of evaluation. And each school does have additional school fees. In terms of the PASS program, so that's what I currently did. That's the residency application program. There are specific accredited schools So this is sort of what the PASS program, the website itself looks like. So you can see, for example, this is the GPR programs, and it's a 12-month GPR program, and they let you know what kind of citizenship they prefer as well. US citizens are generally preferred, as well as US permanent residents, but they do take Canadian permanent residents and Canadian citizens. There are approximately 12 accredited dental residency programs. That includes the Advanced Education in General Dentistry, which is AEGD. It includes dental anesthesiology. It includes dental public health, endodontics, a GPR, which is what I've displayed here, which is a general practice residency, oral and maxillofacial pathology, oral and maxillofacial radiology, oral and maxillofacial surgery, oral medicine, which is what I'm currently doing right now, orofacial pain, orthodontics and dentofacial orthopedics, pediatric dentistry, periodontics, and prosthodontics. So the prerequisites to get into a residency program are 3 to 5 letters of recommendation. Usually what programs prefer is that those letters of recommendation are coming from people that are within that field. However, you can get letters of recommendation from people outside the field as well. You also do require your TOEFL. Again, IBT internet-based is preferred, and you do require in most programs your INBDE. In both anesthesiology, so dental anesthesiology, and oral and maxillofacial surgery, the CBSC, which is the prerequisite USMLE exam, is also required. The score for both that is required is approximately a 70 to 75. That's what's considered competitive currently. The pros with doing a DIA pass is that you go straight in residency and you get to specialize. The cons are that only some residency programs pay, and your salary or stipend that you receive is approximately 40 to 60K for first year, and others you tend to pay approximately 100K plus per year. It's also limited in the number of programs you can apply to, specifically for foreign dental grads, and it is limited again if you are not a US citizen or green card holder or a Canadian citizen. It's also limited in the number of states that you can practice. So that is approximately 10 states that with this residency program, you're able to practice after if you're a foreign dental grad. That includes Connecticut, Florida, Illinois, Michigan, Mississippi, Minnesota, New York, Oregon, Texas, Virginia, and Washington. In terms of the general application process, you might have heard this word tossed around by your counselors, the word holistic, and that's what's the most important thing about these applications. Grades do matter, but they are not the end all for these applications. Other things make up your application and make you competitive. That includes extracurriculars, research, leadership, community service, volunteering, and shadowing. And in the case for people applying to the dental schools, the DAT as well. In terms of letters of recommendation, qualitative over quantitative also matters, and the INBD and or TOEFL. INBDE is pass or fail, so as long as you pass, that's what they're looking for. In terms of the TOEFL exam, which is the English language exam, they are looking for something over 100. So that means that you are over that English language level. So now that you know that these are all the kind of requirements that these schools look at, how do you make yourself competitive and how do you actually make yourself stand out? So this is the list of things that these programs, whether it's residency, whether it's PASS or dental school in general, that they look at. They look at your education, they look at your awards and certificates, they look at qualifying exams, again, TOEFL, INBDE, DAT. They look at your language skills. Are you fluent in English? Are you fluent in other languages that would make you a little bit more diverse and cultured? They look at your licensures and memberships. They look at your US and Canadian healthcare exposure. Are you shadowing in certain places? How many shadowing hours have you accumulated? They look at your international experience as well, your leadership experience, community service. How are you giving back to the community? In certain places, they prioritize individuals that give back to their specific community. They also do want research. In places like Ivy Leagues or more competitive programs, research is very highly emphasized. That is one of the things that they want to see that you've done in undergrad a little bit, more so in dental school and then in residency that you are continuing. And then they do want to sometimes see teaching experience. So I'm going to just base it on what I did, and I'll give you some examples. So for licensures, I got my registered dental assisting license in Texas over the summer. So I would work in the US over the summer because I knew these programs valued US experience. In terms of leadership, I was part of the student government. I was the president. I was the dental rep for my class from first year to my last year. I was the vice president at a certain time. I created a research collaborative at my school and became the president of that as well. In terms of community service, I organized dental drives for the homeless. I was part of Operation Smile Canada, and then I did some mission trips as well to places like India and Malta. In terms of research, I had one publication, I had 2 poster presentations, and a few publications and research that I was working on throughout my time. Again, the program that I'm looking at, or if you are looking at an Ivy League, is associated with an academic hospital. So they really do want to see that you have an interest in research. And in teaching experience, most dental programs in North America are associated with academic hospitals. So this is a big one. They really do want to see that you have an interest in teaching the dental students or even the undergrads. For me, that was through my tutoring, through being a swimming instructor as well. And finally, the personal statement. So in that, you have to make it engaging. It really has to give insight into you as a person, and it needs to stand out and make you unique. You might have seen on social media a few months ago, the person that wrote an entire application about her personal statement, how she hated the letter S. And that was what made her competitive and really made her stand out. I did mine in a different way, and this is really important because it allows the interviewers and allows the panel to see and get an insight into who you are and to see your writing skills as well. With all of these different aspects, that's what you can really make you stand out. Again, if as some of you are applying to dental school, that is a big part of it as well, including the physical component. So that's a little bit about the application process in general and about applying to these programs. I will go over a little bit about my packages that I do offer. So I do have an hourly rate of $50. There currently is a discount as well for a 10 off discount. And I have a general consultation, which is an hourly rate. The hour can be used for interview prep, application review, undergraduate course selection, things like that. In terms of application review, it can include reviewing your supplemental application questions during the live session. And if you choose multiple hours, I can also provide a discount for that. I do have a 5-hour and a 3-hour interview package prep, and it's tailored to the interview that you are preparing for. So the first 30 to 35 minutes of each interview session will be the interview itself, and the remaining time would be feedback. And you do have to let me know what kind of interview style you want it to be, whether it's traditional, MMI, open file, closed file, and it can also include a general interview consultation. In terms of the personal statement and secondary supplemental applications, I offer again a comprehensive review of the statement, and I provide detailed feedback on all aspects, include content, clarity, flow, structure, and grammar. We'll have a virtual meeting, discuss everything, and you'll have unlimited revisions to ensure your personal statement is of the highest quality. It's 1 hour in person and then 2.5 hours offline editing. For the supplementary applications, it's up to 3 schools, 100 to 300 words. And again, it will be going over all aspects of it. If it has a higher word count, you can always reach out to me as well. And I do offer the TOEFL exam prep, which is a 3-hour live session in terms of getting you at least a 25 score in each session, in each section. Okay. Okay, so that's a little bit about the packages, about everything in general. So if you do have any questions, I will do my best to answer them now, and I'll go over it as well. Okay, so I see Rola. Okay, and Kate, you're thinking of going into an international program. So this is for both. So this is for ADIA Pass is the residency programs itself. So I am able to help to get you into residency programs. And then the pass side, and then the capid side is dental schools. So I'm able to help you get into the dental school sides as well. If someone is looking at direct dental school, that is also something I'm able to help with. Anyone have any questions in general? I can just stop sharing. Why Poland? That's definitely a question you get a lot in interviews as well, why I chose to do that. It was a very spontaneous decision. I had a friend who went there, and another friend whose sibling had graduated from there and had gotten a residency position as well, and now was practicing as an attending. They both recommended it, so I decided to really broaden my horizons, and I wanted to get a different perspective, so that's why I chose to go there. So, Arshvik, are you currently in dental school right now? In a undergrad program right now, and you're looking to normal dental school, or are you looking at the pass program? Yes, I definitely feel prepared after graduating from a Polish dental school. I think in general, schools, I've seen this right now with current past students as well. You always will feel a certain degree of unprepared or that kind of imposter syndrome when you're going from school to direct practice. But being in residency, which is something I do highly recommend if you want to specialize, is something that allows you to get that practice and really become a lot more confident. In terms of my practical skills, I actually really do recommend international schools, or I think that they did a really good job in terms of developing my practical skills. I've done a lot more extractions, a lot more root canal treatments, especially on molars and different procedures, compared to some of the students I'm currently seeing in US dental schools. However, there are certain pros and cons. They have a lot more treatment planning experience. They're able to look at a patient and completely create their entire treatment plan from start to finish on their own, which is something I didn't have as much of experience for. So that's something I had to build. And I know every school is different. To those on the wait list. Okay. In terms of on the wait list, if something more can be done, do you mean in general, like currently you're waiting for something to be done while you're waiting to hear back? And if I had to things to do during the gap year. So I would look specifically at the programs you've applied to and see what their recommendations are. So what is it that they value? Are they in a more academic school? So is that something like research that they very highly prioritize? Penn in general really prioritizes research. So that's something I would recommend people doing. They really want to see that you are doing either a poster or a presentation. They value a lot of community service as well. So really giving back to the community, whether that's organizing your own dental drive, whether that is organizing a cancer run, things like that, that's what they want to see. How do you obtain research experience if you've already graduated? So there are a lot of programs online too that do it. For me personally, I cold emailed and cold messaged, and that's how I was able to get involved in research projects outside. So that's something I definitely do recommend. Do they help you in international schools to prepare for coming back into the US? I think it is very dependent on your school. To be honest, for me, I did a lot of the preparation by myself. I had to advocate for myself. I had to look for these programs. I had to do all the research for myself. So in terms of my experience, I was not provided a lot of support, and it was challenging to come back. It was a lot of hard work, but there was also a luck component to it for me. So I feel that you have to be able to advocate for yourself. You have to go and research and look into that for my personal experience, at least. And should I do community service in Poland or US? Does it matter? Again, they do tend to prioritize US and Canadian experience, especially if you're planning to go to the US. That is the first thing that they prioritize, that you're looking and you're establishing yourself in the US. In general, if you are not able to do it in the US, community service in Poland or community service in general is better than not doing community service. So if you had no option, you had to do it in your country, that's fine. But they do tend to prioritize more experience, that you are wanting to show that you're part of the American community and you want to practice there. How I obtained research experience. So I did that one, I did it through school. I created my own collaborative. And I also looked online. So I was able to see that there were research collaboratives that are available online, and I joined one of them. The other thing I did was I reached out and cold emailed and cold messaged a lot of different physicians or researchers to see if I could take part in that. Okay. Any more questions? Did I work in the summers? Yes. So most of my summers I split. Either I was studying for my board examinations or I was working. So during the summers, I went to different countries and I did the mission trip. So one of them includes Malta. So I spent a few weeks in Malta and did a mission trip there. Another thing I also did is in Toronto and in the US, I was doing healthcare experience. So I got my registered dental assisting license, as I mentioned, for Texas. And I would work as a dental assistant in summers in Texas. In Canada, I wanted to shadow. So I shadowed with specialist offices. I would email them, cold email again, to be able to get that experience. Do I think the mission trips are worth it, even though it was not in the US? I personally do. For my application, it made me a lot more of a holistic applicant, and it showed that I was interested. Not only did I prioritize US experience, but I made my application that I was interested in knowing different cultures around the world, how they were able to do dentistry in different places and how it worked. So that was what I wanted to experience. I wanted to experience how dentistry, how different specialties were completed around the world. Are there good non-dental related jobs if I cannot work as a dental assistant? Does it also require a license? So yes, I did have non-dental jobs as well. So I did customer service. I was a swimming instructor. I taught first aid. I was a lifeguard as well. So I did tutoring. So I had a lot of non-dental jobs as well. I was working marketing, things like that. You just need to show that you are working, that you are making a difference. And then if they ask you, why didn't you do something healthcare related? You have to be able to justify, no matter what you do, if you are doing mission trips and you can't get the US experience, if you are doing community service in Poland, but you cannot do it in the US, that's fine. As long as when you get that interview, when you have that personal statement, if you are able to justify it, if you are able to answer the questions that they are asking you, that is fine. And in terms of the licensing for dental assisting, it does depend state by state. Each of them has different requirements. Some of them have online assisting licenses. Some of them have in person as well. Okay, I'm worried that as an international student, it will be hard to come back to practice. Can you help me with the path, like the licensing exams to practice if I want to start working right away, and how to get into residency if I want to pursue my education? So that's a little bit what I was talking about in general. So licensing exams to come back, if you want to start working right away, if you're international, there's only one state that allows you to do that, and that is Minnesota, I believe. I would have to double check that. So there's only one state that you are allowed to practice straight away. And in order for you to practice from that state, you need to do a limited license, and you do have to give approximately 5 years. In terms of residency, again, you do need to make yourself, as I mentioned, a little bit more competitive and see if you qualify for those positions. I don't write letters of recommendation for in general, because that's not the services that I'm providing. So unfortunately, no, I don't do that. I can help on other aspects of the application as well. Do I have to complete the INBDE to come to the US? Yes, it is required by the US Dental Licensing Board for you to complete the INBDE now. Previously, it was the NBDE Part 1 and Part 2. Okay, so I'm going to just have time for just one more question. So I did not study for the INBDE, and I study for the NBDE Part 2. If you are studying for the INBDE, I would say give yourself approximately 7 to 8 weeks. The reason I suggest that is because it's a combination of both your first few years of dental school as well as the last few years. It is a lot more clinical focused compared to the Part 1 and Part 2 exams, but you do need to focus on, one, your basic clinical sciences that you learned in those first few years. And then you need to focus on the pathology and the radiographs and things like that too. So I would recommend 7 to 9 weeks. Do you have any effective active recall methods for studying? It depends on every individual. I think studying is something that is very personalized for each person. So for me, I was the kind of person who had to read from different sources. I have a whiteboard. I still use the whiteboard when I'm studying for exams right now. I use a tablet and I answer questions. I recall things better if I'm solving questions. And then flashcards are always a great way as well. So things like Anki, which is something I've gotten more into, has been great, and videos. Is it easier to come back to Canada or to come back to Canada or the US? I would definitely, for me personally, it was easier to come back to the US. I am a Canadian citizen, but the US tends to have more opportunities that are available. Canada is very limited in the amount of seats that it has. In the US, there are just more programs. For example, for oral medicine, there are 9 residency programs. 2 of them are in Canada. The remaining 7 are in the US. My program at Penn has the most number of spots, 5, whereas some other programs might only have 1. If you're interested in something like orthodontics residency, in Canada, there's only 2 spots total. At Penn, the ortho residency, there are approximately 6 or 7 residents just this year. So it just was easier for me, and it's easier in general in terms of the amount of applicants or positions that are available in terms of residency and even for school. In Canada also, you do have to graduate and then finish your exams, whereas in the US, when you're studying for the INBDE, you can do it during your 4th year, and you can do it after you finish your 4th year. So it is, in my personal opinion, a little bit easier to come back to the US. How do we contact you? Where is this posted? So you can contact me on this. I'm just going to share my screen once more. So this is just the website, acceptedtogether.com/Natalia Trahan, and the seminar recording will be posted on Accepted Together, the website itself. So if you have further questions, you can definitely reach out to me on the website. So I'm just going to write that down again. You can just copy it directly. So you can reach out to me directly on the website, and I will respond to any messages through that. Perfect. Thank you so much for attending this session. I hope it was informative for everyone. And then if you do have any further questions, you can reach out to me on the website, and I will respond to you there. Thank you, everyone.